Hello, everyone, and welcome into our CitrusTV studios for another episode of Beat the Bookie. I'm your host, Jordan Leonard. Yes, I know what you may be thinking right now. I thought this guy was the executive producer, but that's exactly why I'm on the show. I can put myself on it as well. I thought it was finally time for me to prove why I'm leading a betting show by nailing some bets for you. Before I get to my action-packed slate, let's take a look at what Sean Dempsey did last week. How about that, Sean? Going over 500, $46 in the profit, and that parlay. That's really been the story of the season so far for Beat the Bookie. You hit your parlay, you're most likely going in the green. Sean, getting in that third category right there, right behind Skylar Wilkes, right behind Austin Barrick, AB, over 100. That's how you do it right there. That's a Beat the Bookie veteran. He's at the top of the leaderboard. My dear friend Tyler Aiken really struck out looking there. 33 in the negatives, pulling down our total. But look at that. 163 in the green. Now it's time for me to add to that total. We start with our big games of the week.
Jerry, you better yell! Show me the money! Show me the money!
To start off, number 3 Penn State is hosting number 4 Ohio State in Happy Valley. I'll begin with this. The Nittany Lions are the most fraud number 3 team this country has ever seen. Yes, the one has never seen someone this fraud. Penn State is undefeated, yes, but they have the 64th best strength of schedule in the nation. That's out of 134 Division I football teams. 5 of the Nittany Lion wins: West Virginia, Bowling Green, Kent State, a 2-5 UCLA team, and a 4-4 USC team. Yes, they had a gritty win at home against Illinois a couple weeks ago, but look what happened to Illinois last week against Oregon on the road. Ohio State has a top 5 defense. They're battle-tested from a loss at Oregon, plus its offensive weapons are just too disgusting for Penn State to hold down. Give me $10 on Ohio State in Happy Valley, minus 3.5. That's easy. First one out of the way. For our second big game of the week, though, we go to the Big House. This one was supposed to be one of the matchups of the year, but Michigan has been a hail to the losers so far this season. Without J.J. McCarthy at quarterback, the Wolverines are just not explosive on offense. Michigan hasn't scored more than 30 points in a game this season, and the one time they hit 30 was the opener against Fresno State. That's just pathetic out of them. On the other side, Oregon is the real deal. Before the season, I had them making the national championship game, and they have proved it to be true so far this year. The Ducks have struggled to start the season, but that home win against Ohio State, the thumping they gave to Illinois last week, sorry Jake about that one, there was no stopping Dylan Gabriel and crew. Dan Lanning is the best coach in college football. Yes, you heard me. Put 10 Buckaroos on Oregon, minus 14.5 to boat race Michigan in the Big House. Our final big game moves us to the ACC. If you're a Syracuse fan like myself, you just saw your team get utterly dominated by Pittsburgh last Saturday. But I'm here to tell you, Pitt, like Penn State, so maybe it's something to do with Pennsylvania, is highly fraudulent this season. The Panthers' strength of schedule is 101st out of 134 teams in the country. I mean, come on, I can't take you seriously with that number. Their best win of the year is to SU last week, in which they won because of 3 pick sixes in a game which hadn't happened in more than a decade. I'm putting 10 Yinzers on the Mustangs, minus 7.5. By the way, SMU's only loss on the year is to BYU, elite stuff from the first-year ACC foe, SMU. Now it's time to check out the C-suite. Arnav making the picks this week. Wow. I'm with stupid. That's a great picture off of my Instagram. I'm not stupid in sports betting, I can tell you that, but when it comes to jigsaw puzzles or those escape rooms, definitely am that. Ohio State, we're on the same page, minus 3.5. Penn State's a fake team. Oregon, also on the same page, going into the Big House. Michigan's another team that really has not rebounded from the national championship last year. And then he's going with Pitt. I can see it. 7.5 is a big line, but SMU is a good team. Pittsburgh's a fraudulent team. So I'm happy with that SMU over there in Dallas. Now to my best bets. We'll start going down to Happy Valley for a matchup between number 11 Clemson and Louisville. This game may be interesting to some people because the Cardinals are hot. Jeff Brom and company have played Notre Dame, SMU, Miami close, beaten Virginia and BC in recent games. But Clemson is in another world this year compared to other teams in the ACC. Ever since their opening loss to Georgia, the Tigers have won every game by at least 16 points and an average of 27. Think about that. Just think about it for a second. Cade Klubnik and Phil Maffa are a dynamic duo. It's a night game. That's where opponents go to die. And that's exactly what Louisville does. I'll take Clemson on an alternate spread, minus 13.5 to get those plus odds. 10 Dabos on that one. This next one had me shook when I was scrolling through FanDuel earlier this week. The best surprise in college football this season. Vandy was underdogs by 6.5 to Auburn. Yes, it's at Jordan O'Hare Stadium, but come on, Vegas. The Commodores are the number 26 team in the country. They played Missouri close on the road with a healthy Brady Cook. They beat Bama, lost to Texas by 1. Diego Pavia is King's king. He does whatever it takes game in and game out. Also, what has Auburn done to deserve any confidence? Sure, they beat a bad Kentucky team last week on the road. Yes, they're bad, even though they took Georgia to the brink, by the way, and beat Ole Miss. Auburn has lost by a touchdown to Oklahoma, who is mid at best, Georgia by 18, and Missouri by 4. Vandy is just as good, if not better, than some of those teams. I'm putting $10 on Vanderbilt to cover, plus 6.5. I was tempted to put Vandy moneyline plus 195, but we want to make sure the bet hits here. We don't want to risk anything for this one. Up next, we head back to the Big Ten, where Wisconsin hits the road to take on Iowa. This will certainly be a tough game for the Badgers, who are coming off a Saturday night loss to Penn State, but I have faith in Wisconsin. Braden Locke, the quarterback for the Badgers, can sling the rock. I saw that firsthand in Wisco's dominating win against Rutgers. Plus, Wisconsin has the best assistant offensive line coach in the country. Yes, Zach Heeman, native of my hometown, Mount Olive, New Jersey, assistant offensive line coach. He's going to have his crew ready to play. Plus, Cade McNamara, the typical Iowa starting quarterback, wasn't listed on the depth chart this week due to injury. Let's put 10 Taylor ham, egg, and cheeses on Wisconsin money line at plus 132. Now quickly to an over-under. I was scrolling through them this week, and honestly, none of them looked appetizing, I will say that. I think I might owe my other hosts that I forced to take an over-under apology, because at this point through the year, we're 3-4 on football over-unders so far this year. Either way, I have to stick to my rules, which landed me at Oklahoma versus Maine. The Sooners are certainly struggling this season, but are 34.5-point favorites against Calvin Cristofaro's Black Bears this weekend. That's what stumped me. If they're 35-point favorites, how is the over-under only 45.5? I know they're probably thinking Maine won't score that much, but the Sooners put up 51 points against Temple in the season opener. I think they can do that against Maine as well. I'm putting $10 on the over 45.5 in Oklahoma versus Maine. Down to my new home state, Florida, USF heads to Boca Raton to take on Florida Atlantic this weekend. This is the same field last year that I watched Syracuse get demolished by USF in the Boca Raton Bowl last year. What a disgusting game that was, might I just add. This season, though, it'll be a great contest to watch. USF destroy FAU. The Bulls aren't nearly as good as they were last year and have stumbled of late, but Florida Atlantic is even worse. The Owls are 2-5 with their only wins coming against FIU, the Fighting Pit Bulls, and Wagner. Plus, I'm going to tail my Uncle Dave's alma mater and honor my parents' residency in Del Boca Vista. Let's take USF minus 2.5 on the road for $10. Now let's move to a future pick. I have two of these just because I wanted to pick this one. And I got to start with where I was born. I've been a Rutgers fan since birth. To give you some context, my dad went to school there. Over the years, the Scarlet Knights have endured a lot. CitrusTV alum Calvin Cristofaro has referred to it as losing the R and the S and turning it into Utker. By the way, 2 Calvin Cristofaro mentions in the show just hit at plus 1,000 if anyone was wondering. Nonetheless, the Rutgers men's basketball team is in its year. Steve Peichel has been pounding nails with this crew for a number of years now. They had 2 of the top 3 freshmen in the country, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. Great role players like Tyson Acuff, PJ Hayes, and Jordan Durkak were added in the portal. This is Rutgers' year. Will they win the national championship? Probably not. I'm not that high on them. But based on the Big Ten schedule, which isn't that easy, but it could have been harder, give me $5. The Scarlet Knights to win the Big Ten at plus 1,200. Shout out New Jersey. Shout out Adam Cohen. It's called Taylor and Egg and Cheese, everyone. And also, Andrew Sullivan's going to hate this pick, so I love it even more. Now on to a safer future bet. With the updated qualifications for NFL Comeback Player of the Year, it makes this season's winner clear and obvious to me. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Chains himself currently sits at 3rd in the NFL in passing yards and 9th in completion percentage. On top of that, the Falcons sit at 5-3, poised to win the ever-so mid-NFC South. You can make the argument J.K. Dobbins could win it, but Captain Kirk leading his team to the playoffs is just too good of a story. I'm putting $5 on Kirk Cousins, coming off the torn Achilles, to win NFL Comeback Player of the Year, plus 310, pretty good value right there. Now let's look at some of the futures that have been bet throughout this semester. We'll start up with Jake Morrell. That's just Bears homer pick right there. If I was really a homer, I'd try to work in some Jet stuff, but they've been so bad this year. Bears won't win the Super Bowl. It's really been kind of crazy how many NFL either division winners or Super Bowl bets we have so far this season. Tyler Aiken with the Bills Super Bowl. I mean, come on. Josh Allen, not good in the playoffs overall for the most part. Austin Barrett, though, Chiefs Super Bowl chance. I like that one. Good, great value right there. Trikar and Sean going back-to-back NFC North winners. At least we're almost guaranteed to make some money right there, unless the Vikings are actually legit. And then you got the two best future bets right there. Jordan Leonard, Rutgers Big Ten regular season champs, NFL Comeback Player of the Year, Kirk Cousins. That's a lock right there. And now it's time for my favorite part of the show, the parlay. Let's check it out. This parlay is very simple. All money lines for teams I'm confident are going to win their games this weekend. Let's start with the first one in Champaign. How is Illinois home underdogs to Minnesota is beyond me. Yes, Illinois home underdogs to Minnesota. The Illini got blown out last week by Oregon, sure, but the Ducks are a great team. Illinois hasn't lost a game at home this year. Give me Jake Morrell's Illini to bounce back at home, plus 126. Easy money right there. Next, it's a game I already mentioned. Vandy is the number 26 team in the country. They'll lead you to believe there's no such thing as the number 26 team. There absolutely is. Diego Pavia is my second favorite underdog quarterback in the country this year, of course behind the BYU. The Commodores get it done, and their ride continues against Auburn. I will say, when I was putting together this graphic, I was convinced of almost taking Auburn just because of how cool that logo is, but I got to stick with the Commodores right there. We move down to Georgia versus Florida. Florida has endured the hardest schedule in the country this year, and they will fall culprit once again. There's nothing else that needs to be said. Georgia rolls Florida. That's what Georgia does. Florida's a bad team. They're going to need to search for a new head coach at the end of the year. Lastly, I mentioned this game already as well. Clemson is a lock to beat Louisville. The Tigers' revenge tour continues after the loss to Georgia in the opener. Clemson's a sneaky, really good team this season. I'm not going to lie. Plus, the Louisville logo is good, but how about the Tiger right there? That's what we love to see. Clemson minus 365, all told $10 on 4 different money line bets to win just over $80. Now it's time to recap my picks. Starting with that first big game, number 3 Penn State. Again, the fakest team I've ever seen in the country, ever since I've been born. Ohio State minus 3.5, easy pick right there in Happy Valley. Oregon's legit this year. Dylan Gabriel, probably the best quarterback in the country alongside Cam Ward. Minus 14.5 in the Big House. And then SMU, minus 7.5. Pittsburgh, also a fake team in college football. Pennsylvania overall, just a fake state right now in terms of college football teams. You go to Clemson, all minus 13.5. Louisville's hot, but Clemson is just too good this season, especially at home. Vanderbilt plus 6.5 on the road against Auburn. Diego Pavia, just a baller. Wisconsin money line on the road against Iowa. Zach Heeman leading his crew, the offensive line. They're going to run that thing to victory. Oklahoma and Maine over 45.5. You got Florida Atlantic going to get rolled by USF. Easy minus 2.5 there in Boca Raton. My 2 favorite picks of the show. Rutgers to win the Big Ten regular season title, plus 1,200. We got great odds there. Kirk Cousins, Captain Kirk Chains, whatever you want to call him. NFL Comeback Player of the Year. He has that on wrap, plus 310. And then you got a parlay of all parlays. You got Illinois money line, Vanderbilt money line, Georgia money line, Clemson money line. We threw in the 2 easy ones at the end just to enhance the odds right there. But you got a 4 money lines parlay that if it hits, I'm going to be above Austin Barrett when it all comes said and done. That does it for this episode of Beat the Bookie. Appreciate executive producer Jordan Leonard for having me on the show, of course. As always, tail all my bets because they're right. And hopefully you'll be rich by the time college basketball season starts on Monday. Tune back for another episode of Beat the Bookie. I'll be back in the production suite next week.